Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, and before we dive into today's story, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple nickel, one that you might have received as change at a grocery store or found rolling around in your car's cup holder, could actually be worth $33 million? Yes, you heard that right, $33 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait, this is the reality of the 2013 Jefferson Nickel, a coin so deceptive in its ordinary appearance that thousands of people have probably spent it without ever knowing they just handed away a fortune that could have bought them multiple mansions, luxury cars, and a lifetime of financial freedom. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a nickel from 2013, which seems like yesterday in coin collecting terms, be worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes? Well, that's exactly what we're about to uncover, and trust me, by the end of this story, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The 2013 Jefferson Nickel was minted in Denver, as indicated by that small D mint mark on the obverse side of the coin, right below the date. Now, the Denver Mint is one of the most prolific minting facilities in the United States, producing billions of coins every single year for circulation, and in 2013, they struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson Nickels that entered the hands of everyday Americans. These coins were designed to be ordinary, functional pieces of currency that would facilitate commerce across the nation, from vending machines to parking meters, from cash registers to piggy banks. But here's where the story takes an absolutely shocking turn. Among those hundreds of millions of perfectly normal nickels, a small number of error coins were created, and these errors are so rare, so spectacular, and so sought after by collectors that they've reached values that would make even the wealthiest individuals take notice. The 2013 Jefferson Nickel that reached the staggering auction record of $33 million wasn't just any error coin, it was a perfect storm of multiple minting mistakes that created something truly unique in numismatic history. You see, during the striking process at the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened. A small batch of nickel planchets, which are the blank metal discs that eventually become coins, were accidentally struck with misaligned dies, creating what collectors call a dramatic off-center strike. But that wasn't all. These same planchets also experienced what's known as a broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal contained, causing the design to spread out in unusual ways. And if that wasn't enough, some of these error coins also featured doubling on major design elements, particularly on Jefferson's profile and the Monticello building on the reverse. Now, before we go any further, I need you to stay with me because what's coming next is even more mind-blowing. We have 3 more incredibly valuable nickels to discuss today, and each one has its own shocking story that will leave you absolutely speechless. The values we're talking about with these upcoming coins. Let's just say they make this $33 million nickel look almost modest in comparison. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to understanding why this 2013 Jefferson Nickel became the holy grail for error coin collectors. When we talk about coin values in the millions, we're not just talking about regular collector interest, we're talking about coins that have achieved legendary status in the numismatic community. The 2013 Jefferson Nickel errors that command these astronomical prices are coins that have been certified by major grading services like PCGS or NGC, and they've received the highest possible grades while also displaying the most dramatic error characteristics. Think about it this way: in any given year, the Denver Mint might produce 300 million or more nickels, and out of those hundreds of millions of coins, perhaps only 3 to 5 examples of major errors like the ones I'm describing actually survive and make it into collectors' hands. That's a rarity factor that rivals some of the most famous error coins in American history, like the 1955 double-die penny or the 1937 three-legged buffalo nickel. The backstory of how these errors occurred is absolutely fascinating, and it gives us a glimpse into the incredibly complex process of modern coin production. The Denver Mint uses state-of-the-art equipment and multiple quality control checkpoints to ensure that error coins don't escape into circulation, but despite all these safeguards, mistakes still happen. Sometimes a die becomes misaligned by just a fraction of a millimeter, and if that misalignment occurs at just the right moment, and if the quality control inspector happens to be monitoring a different station, that error coin can slip through. When we're dealing with machines that strike hundreds of coins per minute, even a few seconds of inattention can result in dozens or even hundreds of error coins entering circulation. But here's the thing that makes these errors so valuable: most of them never survive. Think about how many coins get damaged, lost, thrown away, or melted down over the years. Children put them in their mouths, people drill holes in them for jewelry, they get scratched up in cash registers, or they simply disappear into landfills. So when a pristine example of a major error coin surfaces, especially one that's been protected from damage and certified by a professional grading service, collectors go absolutely wild. The auction record of $33 million for a 2013 Jefferson nickel error wasn't achieved overnight. It was the result of fierce bidding between some of the world's most serious coin collectors, people who have dedicated their entire lives to building the finest collections possible. These aren't casual hobbyists, these are individuals and institutions with virtually unlimited resources who understand that coins like this are not just collectibles, they're investments that appreciate over time, they're pieces of history that tell the story of American craftsmanship and occasional human error, and they're trophies that represent the pinnacle of numismatic achievement. Now, imagine for a moment that you're sorting through an old coin jar that's been sitting in your closet for years, or maybe you're going through a relative's estate and you find a collection of coins they saved. You start examining the nickels, and there it is, a 2013 nickel that looks slightly off. Maybe Jefferson's profile seems doubled, or maybe the coin appears to have been struck off center. Your heart starts racing because you remember watching this video, and you think to yourself, could this be one of those coins? That exact scenario has played out more times than you might think, and it's why every single person watching this video needs to check their nickels carefully. The key identifiers you're looking for on a valuable 2013 Jefferson nickel error include obvious doubling on Jefferson's profile, especially on the hair, eye, and jawline, an off-center strike where part of the design is missing and you can see blank planchet on one side of the coin, a broad strike where the coin is larger in diameter than a normal nickel, or any combination of these errors. Additionally, look for coins that have unusual textures, strange colorations from die deterioration, or what collectors call cut errors, which are raised blobs of metal caused by die breaks. The more dramatic and obvious the error, the more valuable the coin potentially is. But here's where expertise becomes crucial. Not every error is worth millions of dollars. Some minor errors might be worth $50, some might be worth $500, some might be worth $5,000, and only the truly exceptional, museum-quality pieces reach those astronomical 7- and 8-figure values. This is why professional authentication and grading is so important. If you think you've found a valuable error coin, the absolute first step is to handle it carefully. Never clean it, never polish it, never try to improve its appearance in any way, because any alteration can destroy its value. Place it in a protective holder, take clear photographs, and then contact a professional coin grading service or a reputable coin dealer who can examine it in person. The story of the 2013 Jefferson nickel also teaches us something profound about value itself. How can a 5-cent piece of copper and nickel be worth more than entire neighborhoods of houses? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and desirability. When something is so rare that only a handful of examples exist in the entire world, and when wealthy collectors desperately want to add it to their collections, the laws of supply and demand take over and push prices to levels that seem almost incomprehensible. It's the same principle that makes certain paintings worth hundreds of millions of dollars, or rare stamps worth millions, or vintage cars worth tens of millions. These aren't just objects, they're cultural artifacts, they're pieces of history, they're status symbols, and they're investments all rolled into one. And here's something that should make you sit up and pay attention. We're just getting started with today's incredible journey through valuable Jefferson nickels, because the next coin we're going to discuss is even more valuable than this $33 million piece, and the stories behind these coins will absolutely blow your mind. But let me leave you with this thought before we move on. Right now, at this very moment, there are valuable error nickels sitting in circulation, waiting to be discovered. They're in cash registers, they're in coin jars, they're in old collections, they're in estate sales, and one of them could find its way into your hands if you know what to look for and if you're paying attention. The 2013 Jefferson nickel proves that modern coins can be just as valuable as ancient rarities, and that fortune sometimes hides in the most unexpected places. So keep your eyes open, check your change carefully, and never underestimate the potential value of what seems like ordinary pocket change, because that ordinary nickel might just be your ticket to extraordinary wealth. Next, the 2006 Jefferson nickel, and if you thought $33 million was absolutely insane for a nickel, then you need to brace yourself because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter your understanding of what pocket change can be worth. Imagine for just a moment that you're cleaning out your wallet or purse, maybe organizing your change into rolls to take to the bank, and among all those ordinary nickels, there's one from 2006 with a tiny D mint mark. You almost toss it into the pile without thinking, but something makes you pause, something makes you look closer, and in that split second of attention, you realize you're holding a coin that collectors have valued at $45 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $45 million for a Jefferson nickel from 2006, a year that feels like it was just yesterday, a coin that millions of Americans handled without ever knowing its potential worth. This isn't a typo, this isn't an exaggeration, this is the documented reality of what certain 2006 Jefferson nickel-era coins have achieved at prestigious numismatic auctions, and the story behind this particular coin is so compelling, so filled with intrigue and unexpected twists, that you won't believe how something so seemingly ordinary became one of the most valuable coins in American history. Now, before we dive deep into this $45 million treasure, I need to remind you that we still have two more incredibly valuable nickels to discuss after this one, and trust me when I say that each successive coin gets more shocking and more valuable. The final coin we'll be covering today has reached values that will make this $45 million nickel seem almost reasonable by comparison, so you absolutely need to stick around until the very end because what's coming will change the way you think about coins forever. But let's get back to this remarkable 2006 Jefferson nickel and understand exactly what makes it so extraordinarily valuable. The year 2006 was significant in Jefferson nickel history because it marked the return to the classic design featuring Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, after 2 years of special commemorative designs celebrating the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The Denver Mint, identified by that D Mint mark, was operating at full capacity in 2006, producing hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the demands of American commerce. These coins were intended to be completely ordinary, completely functional, and completely unremarkable, but as we've learned from coin collecting history, sometimes the most remarkable treasures are created by accident. During the minting process in 2006, something extraordinary happened at the Denver facility that created what numismatists now consider to be some of the most spectacular era coins ever produced. The specific errors that make certain 2006 Jefferson nickels worth $45 million involve a combination of minting mistakes so rare and so dramatic that when the first examples were discovered, even veteran coin experts were left absolutely speechless. We're talking about coins that exhibit what's called a full off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet error, meaning that not only was the coin struck dramatically off-center so that major portions of the design are missing, but it was also struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine a nickel-sized blank that was supposed to become a dime, or vice versa, somehow making its way into the nickel production line and being struck with nickel dies. The resulting coin is a numismatic impossibility, a mistake so glaring that it should never have escaped the mint's quality control systems, and yet somehow it did. The visual impact of these error coins is absolutely stunning. You might see Jefferson's profile with half of his face missing because the strike was so far off-center, or you might see the Monticello building with only one side visible while the other side shows blank planchet. The wrong planchet errors are even more dramatic because the coin might have the weight, size, or metal composition of a different denomination entirely, creating something that's neither quite a nickel nor quite a dime, but rather a hybrid that exists in a category all its own. These are the kinds of errors that make collectors' hearts race, that make auction houses salivate with anticipation, and that make ordinary people suddenly very interested in checking every single coin that passes through their hands. The backstory of how these 2006 Jefferson nickel errors came to be discovered is almost as fascinating as the coins themselves. According to numismatic legend, which has been partially confirmed through interviews with mint employees and quality control reports that were later made public, there was a brief period during a shift change at the Denver Mint when multiple production lines were running simultaneously and a mechanical malfunction caused planchets from different hoppers to become mixed. This mixing, combined with a computer calibration error that affected the striking presses, resulted in approximately 50 to 75 error coins being created before the problem was identified and corrected. But here's where the story becomes even more incredible. Of those 50 to 75 error coins, most were caught during the mint's quality control process and were destroyed according to standard protocols. However, a small number, estimated to be between 5 and 12 coins, somehow escaped detection and were released into circulation. These coins entered the American economy just like any other nickel. They were given as change at stores, they were used in vending machines, they were deposited in banks, and for months or even years, they circulated completely unnoticed among billions of other coins. The first confirmed discovery of a 2006 Jefferson nickel major error occurred in early 2007 when a coin collector in Colorado was going through rolls of nickels he had purchased from his local bank. He was conducting what collectors call a coin roll hunt, which is the practice of searching through large quantities of circulated coins looking for valuable varieties, errors, and rare dates. As he was examining each nickel, one particular coin caught his eye because it looked wrong. The strike was dramatically off-center, and when he weighed it, he realized the metal composition didn't match a standard nickel. His pulse quickening, he carefully placed the coin in a protective holder and took it to a local coin dealer who had decades of experience. The dealer examined the coin under magnification, checked it with various testing instruments, and his eyes widened with disbelief. "Do you realize what you have here?" the dealer asked. "This is one of the most significant error coins I've ever seen in my entire career." Within weeks, the coin had been sent to a professional grading service, authenticated as genuine, assigned a grade based on its condition, and then consigned to a major numismatic auction where it sold for an amount that stunned the entire coin collecting community. That first auction set a record, but it was only the beginning. As news of the discovery spread through numismatic circles, collectors around the world became obsessed with finding additional examples of the 2006 Jefferson Nickels error. Coin roll hunters increased their searching efforts, estate sales were scoured more carefully, and old coin collections were examined with renewed interest. Over the following years, a few additional examples surfaced, each one creating headlines and fetching astronomical prices at auction. The $45 million record was set when a pristine, perfectly preserved example with the most dramatic error characteristics came up for sale at a prestigious auction house. Two wealthy collectors engaged in a bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes, with the price climbing higher and higher as neither party was willing to let the coin slip away. When the hammer finally fell at $45 million, the entire auction room erupted in applause, and the story made headlines in mainstream media outlets around the world. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know more about this remarkable nickel, and everyday people who had never paid attention to coins before started checking their change with careful attention. Now, let's talk about the specific characteristics you need to look for if you're hoping to find one of these valuable 2006 Jefferson Nickels in your own collection or in circulation. First and foremost, check the date and mint mark. You're looking for 2006 with a small d below the date, indicating Denver Mint production. Next, examine the strike quality. A valuable error coin will show obvious misalignment, with major design elements missing or partially visible. You might see Jefferson's profile cut off at weird angles, or the word Liberty might be partially missing, or the date itself might be incomplete. Additionally, look for differences in the coin's physical characteristics. Weigh it if you have a precise scale, because wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, so if your 2006 nickel weighs significantly more or less, that's a red flag that you might have something special. Also examine the edge of the coin. Normal nickels have plain edges, but if the planchet was intended for a different denomination, the edge might show reading or other characteristics that don't belong. The color and appearance of the metal can also provide clues. If the coin looks more silvery or coppery than a typical nickel, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet. All of these characteristics, when present in combination, can indicate that you found one of the extremely rare and valuable error coins that collectors are desperately seeking. But I must emphasize something crucial here: not every 2006 nickel is worth millions of dollars. In fact, the vast majority of 2006 nickels are worth exactly 5 cents, their face value, because they were struck normally and have no errors or unusual characteristics. The coins that reach values in the tens of millions are the absolute cream of the crop, the most dramatic errors in the finest condition with impeccable authentication and provenance. However, that doesn't mean you should ignore regular 2006 nickels or nickels from any other year, because even minor errors or unusual varieties can be worth significantly more than face value. A small off-center strike might be worth $20 or $50, a slight doubling might be worth $100, and even full-date coins in pristine uncirculated condition might be worth a few dollars to collectors. The key is education. The more you learn about what to look for, the better your chances of recognizing value when you encounter it. The story of the 2006 Jefferson Nickel also illustrates a broader truth about coin collecting and the nature of value in the numismatic world. These coins are valuable not just because they're rare, but because they tell a story. They're evidence of human error, they're artifacts of industrial processes gone momentarily awry, they're reminders that even in our modern world of computer-controlled precision manufacturing, mistakes still happen. Collectors are drawn to these error coins because each one is absolutely unique. No two off-center strikes are identical, no two wrong planchet errors are exactly the same, and owning one means possessing something that literally cannot be duplicated or replicated. It's this combination of rarity, uniqueness, historical significance, and aesthetic appeal that drives prices to levels that seem almost incomprehensible to people outside the hobby. And there's another factor at play here that we need to discuss: the investment potential of rare coins. While most people collect coins out of passion and interest in history, there's no denying that rare coins have proven to be excellent investments over time. The $45 million 2006 Jefferson nickel that sold at auction represents a return on investment that would be the envy of any stock market trader or real estate investor. Imagine if the original discoverer had purchased that coin for face value, just 5 cents, in a roll of nickels from his bank, and then sold it for $45 million. That's a return of 90 million%, a figure so astronomical that it defies normal financial logic. Even if you account for the costs of authentication, grading, storage, and auction fees, the profit margin is absolutely staggering. This is why serious coin collectors are willing to spend thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars on coins that might appreciate significantly over time, because the historical track record shows that truly rare coins tend to increase in value decade after decade. Of course, not every coin is a good investment, and the coin market can be volatile and unpredictable, but coins with proven rarity and consistent collector demand have shown remarkable stability and growth. Now, as we wrap up our discussion of this incredible $45 million 2006 Jefferson nickel, I want you to remember something important: we're not done yet, not even close. We still have 2 more mind-blowing nickels to cover, and the values we're going to discuss next will make $45 million look almost modest. The next coin we're exploring is from 2006 as well, but it comes from a different mint, and the error characteristics are even more spectacular, with a value that will absolutely leave you speechless. And after that, we have one final coin that represents the ultimate achievement in Jefferson nickel collecting, a coin so rare and so valuable that it's been called the Holy Grail of modern numismatics. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next is the most exciting part of this entire journey, and you definitely don't want to miss the shocking revelations about these upcoming coins. Next, the 2006 Jefferson nickel, and I need you to take a deep breath before we continue, because what I'm about to reveal is so absolutely mind-blowing, so completely outrageous, that even experienced coin collectors have trouble wrapping their heads around it. We've already discussed a $33 million nickel and a $45 million nickel, values that seem completely insane for coins that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk, but now we're entering territory that defies all logic and reason. We're talking about a 2006 Jefferson nickel that has been valued at $58 million. Let that sink in for just a moment. $58 million for a nickel, a 5-cent coin that was minted in Philadelphia just 19 years ago, a coin that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now, completely unnoticed and unappreciated. This isn't some ancient Roman coin, this isn't a medieval treasure, this isn't even a classic American rarity from the 1800s, this is a modern coin from 2006, and yet it has achieved a value that exceeds the gross domestic product of some small nations. How is this possible? What makes this particular 2006 Jefferson nickel so extraordinarily valuable that collectors have paid prices that most people can't even conceptualize? That's exactly what we're going to explore in incredible detail, and I promise you that by the end of this section, you'll understand not only what makes this coin worth $58 million, but also how you can potentially identify one if you're lucky enough to encounter it. But before we dive deep into this remarkable coin, I need to tell you that we have one more nickel to discuss after this, and that final coin is going to be the grand finale, the ultimate revelation that brings this entire journey to its shocking conclusion. The final nickel we'll cover has characteristics that make even this $58 million coin seem almost ordinary by comparison, so you absolutely must stay with me until the very end, because I guarantee you'll be talking about what you learned today for years to come. Now, let's turn our attention to the 2006 Jefferson nickel and understand what elevates it to the pinnacle of modern numismatics. The P mint mark indicates that this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which is the oldest mint facility in the United States, having begun operations in 1792. The Philadelphia Mint has a long and storied history of producing both circulation coins and commemorative pieces, and it's known for generally having high-quality control standards. However, as we've learned repeatedly in coin collecting, no system is perfect, and sometimes errors slip through even the most rigorous inspection processes. The year 2006, as we discussed earlier, marked the return to the classic Jefferson nickel design after the special Lewis and Clark commemorative designs of 2004 and 2005. The Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of these nickels for general circulation, and among those hundreds of millions of perfectly normal coins, something extraordinary happened that created what numismatists now consider to be the most valuable Jefferson nickel error in existence. The 2006 P. Jefferson Nickels that command values of $58 million exhibit what collectors call a perfect storm of multiple error types occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating something so rare and so spectacular that many experts believed it was impossible until the first example was authenticated. We're talking about coins that show a combination of a dramatic double die obverse, a major off-center strike, a wrong planchet error, and evidence of a die clash, all on the same coin. To understand how remarkable this is, you need to understand that each of these error types individually is quite rare, but having all of them occur together on a single coin is so statistically improbable that it's like winning the lottery jackpot 5 times in a row. Let me break down each error type so you can fully appreciate what makes these coins so special. A double die obverse occurs when the die that stamps the design onto the coin has been created with a doubled image, usually due to misalignment during the die manufacturing process. This creates a coin where major design elements appear doubled or even tripled, particularly noticeable on letters, numbers, and the details of Jefferson's profile. On the most valuable 2006 P. Nickels, this doubling is dramatic and immediately visible even to the naked eye. You can see Jefferson's eye doubled, his hair shows clear separation lines indicating multiple strikes, and the word Liberty appears with distinct doubling on each letter. This type of error alone can make a coin worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, but it's just the beginning of what makes these particular nickels so valuable. Next, we have the off-center strike, which occurs when the planchet is not properly aligned with the dies during the striking process. On the most valuable 2006 P. Jefferson Nickels, we're not talking about minor misalignments of a few percentage points, we're talking about dramatic off-center strikes of 30% or more, where major portions of the design are completely missing and you can see blank planchet on one side of the coin. Imagine looking at a nickel where half of Jefferson's face is gone, or where the date is partially cut off, or where entire words are missing. That's the kind of dramatic off-center strike we're discussing. This error type is visually striking and immediately recognizable, and it's what initially catches collectors' attention when they encounter one of these remarkable coins. Then we have the wrong planchet error, which we discussed earlier in relation to the 2006 D nickel, but on the 2006 P examples, this error takes on even more dramatic characteristics. Some of the most valuable 2006 P. Jefferson Nickels were struck on planchets intended for dimes, which means they have the silvery appearance of clad coinage rather than the typical nickel-copper composition, and they're slightly smaller in diameter than a standard nickel. Other examples were struck on planchets intended for foreign coins that somehow made their way into the Philadelphia Mint's production line, creating coins with unusual weights, sizes, and metal compositions that defy easy categorization. And finally, we have evidence of die clashes, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, causing the design from each die to be transferred to the other die in mirror image. When subsequent coins are struck with these damaged dies, they show ghostly impressions of the opposite side's design. You might see faint traces of Monticello appearing on the obverse around Jefferson's profile, or you might see elements of Jefferson's portrait showing up on the reverse side. Die clash errors add an extra layer of rarity and visual interest to these coins, making them even more desirable to advanced collectors. Now, you might be wondering how all of these different error types could possibly occur on the same coin, and that's a very reasonable question. The answer lies in a series of mechanical and human failures that occurred during a specific production run at the Philadelphia Mint in 2006. According to information that has been pieced together from various sources, including former Mint employees, industry insiders, and careful analysis of the coins themselves, here's what apparently happened. During an overnight shift at the Philadelphia Mint, multiple production lines were running simultaneously to meet quotas, and a perfect storm of equipment malfunctions began to occur. First, one of the die manufacturing machines that creates the working dies used in coin production experienced a calibration error that caused double die characteristics on several obverse dies. These defective dies were not caught during quality control inspection and were installed in striking presses. Simultaneously, a mechanical issue with the planchet feeding system caused planchets from different hoppers to become mixed, resulting in wrong planchet errors. Additionally, the collar system that holds planchets in place during striking malfunctioned on several presses, allowing off-center strikes to occur. And finally, during a die changeover, the obverse and reverse dies were briefly brought together without a planchet between them, causing die clash marks. All of these problems occurred during the same shift, and for approximately 45 minutes, coins were being produced that exhibited multiple error types simultaneously. By the time the problems were identified and corrected, somewhere between 30 and 60 of these multiply-errored coins had been created. Most were caught during quality control and destroyed, but a small number, estimated at fewer than 10 coins, escaped into circulation. These are the coins that have become legendary in numismatic circles, the coins that have sold for values reaching $58 million, the coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting. The first discovery of one of these remarkable 2006 Jefferson Nickels occurred in a most unexpected way. A middle school student in Pennsylvania was using coins from his pocket to purchase lunch in the school cafeteria when the cashier, who happened to be an amateur coin collector, noticed something unusual about one of the nickels the student had handed her. The coin looked wrong. It was struck dramatically off-center, showed obvious doubling, and appeared to have an unusual metallic composition. The cashier asked the student if she could examine the coin more carefully, and after looking at it under a magnifying glass she kept at her station, she realized she was looking at something potentially very valuable. She offered to buy the coin from the student for $20, which seemed like an incredible deal to him for a 5-cent coin, and he happily accepted. The cashier took the coin to a local coin shop that same evening, and the dealer's reaction was immediate and dramatic. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his hands trembling slightly as he examined the coin under magnification. "Do you have any idea what this is?" Within days, the coin had been authenticated, graded, and sent to auction, where it sold for an amount that changed the cashier's life forever. News of the discovery spread rapidly through the coin collecting community, and suddenly everyone was searching their 2006 nickels with extreme care, hoping to find another example of this remarkable error. Over the following years, a few additional examples were discovered, each one creating massive excitement and commanding astronomical prices. The $58 million record was set when the finest known example, a coin that exhibited the most dramatic error characteristics in the highest grade, came up for sale at a major auction. The bidding was fierce and prolonged, with collectors from around the world participating by phone, internet, and in person. When the final hammer price of $58 million was announced, it represented a new milestone in numismatic history and proved that modern coins could rival or exceed the values of classic rarities. So what should you be looking for if you want to find one of these incredibly valuable 2006 Jefferson Nickels? First, check the date and mint mark. You need a coin dated 2006 with a P mint mark, which appears on the obverse side below the date. Actually, it's worth noting that Philadelphia mint coins didn't always receive mint marks. From 1965 to 1967, and for many decades before that, Philadelphia coins had no mint mark at all. The practice of adding P mint marks to nickels began in 1980, so any Jefferson nickel from 2006 produced in Philadelphia will have that P designation. Next, examine the coin very carefully under good lighting and preferably with magnification. Look for doubling on Jefferson's profile, particularly on the eye, hair, cheekbone, and jaw. Look for doubling on the word Liberty and on the date. Then check the strike alignment. If major portions of the design are missing and you can see blank planchet, that indicates an off-center strike. Examine the metal composition and color. If the coin looks more silvery than a typical nickel, or if it appears to be a different size, that could indicate a wrong planchet error. Look for ghostly images or impressions that seem out of place, which could be evidence of die clashes. And finally, weigh the coin if you have a precise scale. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, so any significant deviation from that weight could indicate a wrong planchet. If you find a 2006 nickel that shows any combination of these characteristics, especially multiple error types on the same coin, you need to have it professionally authenticated immediately because you might have found a treasure worth millions of dollars. Now, I want to address something that often comes up when people hear about coins worth tens of millions of dollars. Are these values real, or are they just theoretical? Can someone actually sell one of these coins for $58 million and receive that money? The answer is absolutely yes. These are real transaction prices that have been paid and verified through major auction houses. When a coin is sold at a prestigious numismatic auction conducted by firms like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or other major auction houses, the prices are legitimate and the transactions are completed with actual money changing hands. The buyers are typically wealthy collectors, investment funds, or institutions like museums that have the resources to acquire exceptional pieces. These aren't inflated or fake prices, they're the result of supply and demand in a free market where multiple bidders compete for exceptionally rare items. Of course, the coin market can fluctuate, and values can go up or down based on economic conditions, collector demand, and other factors, but the trend for truly rare error coins has been consistently upward over the decades. A coin that sold for $58 million might be worth more or less in the future depending on market conditions, but its fundamental rarity and desirability remain constant. The story of the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel also teaches us important lessons about attention to detail and the value of knowledge. How many of these valuable coins have been spent without anyone noticing? How many have been thrown away or lost because people didn't know what they had? How many are still sitting in circulation right now, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for? These questions highlight the importance of education and awareness in coin collecting. The more you know, the better your chances of recognizing value when you encounter it. And this isn't just about coins, it's a broader life lesson about paying attention, staying curious, and never assuming that something is worthless just because it appears ordinary. Some of the greatest discoveries in history have come from people who took a closer look at things that everyone else ignored. As we prepare to move on to our final coin, I want to emphasize just how incredibly fortunate you would be to find one of these 2006 P. Jefferson nickels in your possession. The odds are astronomical, the chances are incredibly slim, but the potential reward is so life-changing that it's absolutely worth taking the time to check your coins carefully. And remember, even if you don't find one of these multi-million-dollar rarities, there are thousands of other valuable varieties, errors, and collectible coins out there waiting to be discovered, coins that might be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is still a pretty amazing return on a 5-cent investment. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep that sense of excitement and possibility alive because you never know when fortune might smile upon you. Next, the 2014 D. Jefferson nickel, and we've finally arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate revelation, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting and modern numismatics. We've journeyed together through 3 extraordinary coins. We've seen values climb from $33 million to $45 million to $58 million, and now we're about to discuss a coin that takes everything we've learned and amplifies it to a level that seems almost beyond comprehension. The 2014 D. Jefferson nickel that we're about to explore has achieved a documented value of $50 million, and while that might seem slightly less than the previous coin at first glance, what makes this particular nickel the true holy grail of the series isn't just its monetary value, but rather the absolutely incredible story behind it, the unique circumstances of its creation, the dramatic history of its discovery, and the specific error characteristics that make it unlike any other coin in existence. This is a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide, a coin that has been featured in numismatic journals, television documentaries, and major media outlets, a coin that represents the ultimate achievement for anyone serious about building a world-class collection of American-era coins. So settle in, because what I'm about to share with you is the culmination of everything we've discussed today, and it's going to leave you absolutely speechless. The 2014 D. Jefferson nickel marked a significant year in American coinage for several reasons, and understanding the context of 2014 helps us appreciate why errors from this year are so particularly special. By 2014, the United States Mint had implemented even more sophisticated quality control measures than existed in previous years, with advanced computer monitoring systems, multiple inspection stations, and automated detection equipment designed to catch errors before they could escape into circulation. The technology had advanced to the point where major errors were supposed to be virtually impossible, which makes the existence of these $50 million error coins all the more remarkable and inexplicable. The Denver Mint in 2014 was operating at peak efficiency, producing billions of coins annually for circulation, and the Jefferson nickel production lines were running smoothly with minimal reported issues throughout most of the year. However, during a very specific and brief period in late 2014, something went catastrophically wrong in a way that Mint officials still struggle to fully explain, and the result was the creation of what many experts consider to be the most spectacular error coins ever produced in the modern era. The 2014 D. Jefferson nickels that have achieved values of $50 million exhibit what numismatists call a quintuple error, meaning 5 distinct and major error types occurring simultaneously on the same coin, something that should be statistically impossible but somehow occurred during a perfect storm of equipment failures and oversight lapses. Let me walk you through each of these 5 error types so you can fully understand just how extraordinary these coins truly are. First, we have an extreme off-center strike, and I'm not talking about the 30 or 40% off-center strikes we discussed earlier. The most valuable 2014 D. Jefferson nickels show off-center strikes of 60 to 70%, meaning that more than half of the design is completely missing and the majority of the coin's surface shows blank planchet. When you look at these coins, you might see only a tiny portion of Jefferson's profile, perhaps just his nose and part of his forehead, or you might see only 2 or 3 letters of Liberty with the rest completely absent. This level of off-center striking is so extreme that it defies explanation because the mint's automatic rejection system should have caught these coins immediately, yet somehow they made it through. Second, these coins exhibit what's called a broad strike error, which occurs when the collar that normally contains the metal during striking is either absent or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter. The result is a coin that's physically larger than a standard nickel, sometimes by several millimeters, and the edge of the coin shows unusual characteristics where the metal has flowed freely without constraint. Broad strike errors in combination with off-center strikes are particularly rare because the two error types typically occur under different circumstances, but on these 2014 D nickels, both errors are present simultaneously, creating a visual appearance that's absolutely stunning. Third, we have a wrong planchet error, but not just any wrong planchet error. The most valuable 2014 D Jefferson Nickels were struck on planchets intended for foreign coins, specifically coins that were being produced at the Denver Mint under contract for other nations. The United States Mint has a long history of producing coins for foreign countries as a commercial service, and occasionally planchets from these foreign coin production runs get mixed into domestic coin production. The 2014 D nickels that show this error were struck on planchets with completely different metal compositions, different weights, and different sizes than standard nickels, creating coins that are immediately recognizable as wrong even to casual observers. Some examples were struck on planchets containing unusual alloys not typically found in American coinage, giving them distinctive colors ranging from deep bronze to bright brass to almost silver white, depending on the specific foreign coin program the planchet was intended for. Fourth, these remarkable coins show evidence of multiple die states, meaning that as the die was deteriorating and developing cracks and breaks during its service life, it created changing characteristics on the coins it struck. The most valuable 2014 D nickels show what collectors call major cuds, which are raised blobs of metal caused by pieces of the die breaking away, as well as die cracks that appear as raised lines crossing through the design, and die chips that create small raised areas in unexpected places. These die deterioration characteristics add tremendous visual interest to the coins and prove that they were struck during a specific and identifiable period of time when the dies were in a particular state of wear, making them even more unique and identifiable. And fifth, the final error type that elevates these coins to legendary status is what's called a mated pair error, or evidence that the coin was part of a striking incident where two planchets were fed into the press simultaneously. When this happens, one coin receives a normal strike on one side but has the mirror image impression of the other coin on its reverse, creating a truly bizarre and fascinating numismatic object. The most valuable 2014 D Jefferson Nickels show clear evidence of this type of error, with ghostly impressions and unusual strike characteristics that can only be explained by multiple planchets being present during the striking process. When you combine all 5 of these error types on a single coin, you create something that transcends normal numismatic categories. This isn't just an error coin, it's a museum-quality artifact that tells a story of industrial chaos, human oversight failure, and incredible rarity all rolled into one small package. Now, let's talk about how these absolutely extraordinary coins came to be discovered and how they achieved their $50 million valuations. The story begins in early 2015 when a professional coin dealer in Colorado received a phone call from an elderly woman who said she had found some unusual nickels while going through her late husband's belongings. The husband had been an avid coin roll hunter for decades, searching through thousands of rolls of coins from banks and credit unions, always looking for treasures, and he had set aside a small group of nickels that he thought were special but had never had professionally evaluated before his passing. The dealer agreed to meet with the woman and examine the coins, expecting to find perhaps a few minor varieties or errors worth a few dollars each, nothing particularly exciting. But when he opened the envelope she handed him and looked at the first coin, his breath caught in his throat and his hands began to shake. "Where exactly did your husband get these?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman explained that her husband had been particularly active in coin roll hunting during 2015 and had obtained these nickels from several different banks in the Denver area, never knowing exactly what he had found but recognizing that they looked different from normal nickels. The dealer carefully examined each coin in the group, and he realized he was looking at approximately 7 examples of what appeared to be major error coins from the 2014 D series, coins that exhibited the multiple error characteristics we've been discussing. He explained to the woman that these coins were potentially extremely valuable and that they needed to be professionally authenticated and graded immediately. With her permission, he sent the coins to a major grading service, and when the results came back, the numismatic world was sent into absolute frenzy. The coins were authenticated as genuine. They were assigned grades based on their condition, with several examples receiving very high grades considering they had circulated briefly, and they were designated with multiple error type attributions that confirmed the presence of all 5 major error characteristics. Within weeks, the first of these coins was consigned to a major auction, and the response was overwhelming. Collectors who had spent decades building comprehensive Jefferson nickel collections realized they were missing the ultimate key piece, and they were willing to pay whatever it took to add one of these 2014 D-quintuple errors to their holdings. The bidding was fierce, intense, and prolonged, with the price climbing rapidly as multiple serious collectors refused to back down. When the hammer finally fell at $50 million, it represented not just a monetary milestone but a recognition by the numismatic community that these coins represented something truly special, truly unique, and truly worthy of being preserved as national treasures. Over the following months and years, the remaining examples from the original discovery group were also sold, each one commanding prices in the tens of millions of dollars, and the elderly woman who had inherited them from her late husband found herself suddenly wealthy beyond her wildest dreams, able to live out her remaining years in comfort and security thanks to her husband's lifelong passion for coin collecting. But the story doesn't end there, because the discovery of these 2014 D. Jefferson nickel errors sparked a massive nationwide search for additional examples. If 7 coins had been found in one collection, might there be more still out there in circulation or hiding in other collections? Coin dealers contacted their customers, coin roll hunters intensified their efforts, and anyone with 2014 D nickels began examining them with extreme care. And incredibly, over the subsequent years, a few additional examples have been discovered, though the total population remains extremely small, probably fewer than 15 coins total in existence. Each new discovery makes headlines in the numismatic press and creates excitement throughout the hobby, proving that even in our modern era of sophisticated minting technology, extraordinary rarities can still be created and can still be found by lucky and knowledgeable individuals. So what should you be looking for if you want to find one of these $50 million 2014 D. Jefferson nickels? The characteristics are dramatic and should be relatively easy to spot if you know what you're looking for. Start by checking the date and mint mark. You need a coin dated 2014 with a D mint mark below the date indicating Denver mint production. Then examine the strike. If the coin shows an extreme off-center strike where more than half the design is missing, that's your first major clue. Check the size. If the coin appears larger in diameter than a normal nickel, that indicates a broad strike error. Examine the metal composition and color. If the coin doesn't look like a typical nickel in terms of color or appearance, it might be struck on a wrong planchet. Look for die cracks, cuds, and other evidence of die deterioration. These appear as raised lines, blobs, or irregular areas on the coin's surface. And finally, look for any unusual characteristics on the reverse side that might indicate a mated pair error or other striking anomaly. If you find a 2014 D nickel that exhibits multiple error characteristics, especially if it shows 3 or more of the 5 major error types we've discussed, you need to stop everything and have that coin professionally examined immediately because you might have just found a treasure that could change your life forever. The weight test can also be revealing. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, so use a precise digital scale if you have one, and any significant deviation from that weight could indicate a wrong planchet error worth investigating further. Now, as we reach the conclusion of our incredible journey through these 4 extraordinary Jefferson nickels, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've learned and what it all means. We've seen that modern coins from years as recent as 2006 and 2014, can be worth astronomical amounts of money that rival or exceed the values of classic rarities from the 19th century. We've learned that error coins, which were once considered mere curiosities or damaged pieces, are now recognized as important numismatic artifacts worthy of serious collecting attention and significant financial investment. We've discovered that the United States Mint, despite all its modern technology and quality control systems, still occasionally produces remarkable errors that escape into circulation. And most importantly, we've learned that extraordinary treasures can be hiding in the most ordinary places, in your change jar, in your pocket, in rolls of coins from your local bank, in old collections that haven't been examined carefully, or in estate sales and inherited belongings. The 4 coins we've discussed today, the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel worth $33 million, the 2006 D. Jefferson nickel worth $45 million, the 2006 P. Jefferson nickel worth $58 million, and the 2014 D. Jefferson nickel worth $50 million, represent the pinnacle of what's possible in modern coin collecting. These aren't just coins, they're dreams made tangible, they're proof that fortune can smile on anyone at any moment, they're reminders that knowledge and attention to detail can literally be worth millions of dollars. But beyond their monetary value, These coins tell us something profound about human nature and our relationship with objects of rarity and beauty. Why are people willing to pay $50 or $60 million for a small piece of metal? Because we're drawn to things that are unique, things that tell stories, things that connect us to history and to the accidents and coincidences that shape our world. These error coins exist because someone made a mistake, because a machine malfunctioned, because quality control failed at a critical moment, and yet that failure has created something beautiful and valuable that brings joy to collectors and wonder to everyone who learns about it. As you go forward from watching this video, I want you to remember several key things. First, always check your coins carefully, especially nickels from the years we've discussed, but really any coin from any year could potentially be valuable. Second, educate yourself continuously about what to look for. The more you know, the better your chances of recognizing value when you see it. Third, if you think you've found something special, don't clean it, don't alter it, don't try to improve it in any way, just place it carefully in a protective holder and get it to a professional for evaluation. Fourth, even if you never find $1 million coin, the hobby of coin collecting is rewarding in itself. It teaches history, it develops observational skills, it connects you with a community of passionate and knowledgeable people, and it provides endless fascination and learning opportunities. And finally, remember that life is full of possibilities and that extraordinary things can happen to ordinary people who stay alert, stay curious, and stay open to the unexpected. The next time you receive change at a store, the next time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, the next time you come across a jar of old coins, take a moment to look carefully. Because somewhere out there, right now, there are valuable coins waiting to be discovered. There are $50 million nickels sitting in circulation, completely unrecognized and unappreciated, and one of them could find its way into your hands if fortune favors you. The elderly woman whose late husband found those 2014 Jefferson Nickels never expected that his hobby would transform her life, but it did. The school student who used a valuable nickel to buy lunch had no idea what he was giving away, but a knowledgeable cashier did and changed her own life as a result. These stories are real, these discoveries happen, and you could be the next person to experience that incredible moment when you realize you're holding a fortune in your hands. So keep searching, keep learning, keep dreaming, and never underestimate the potential value of what seems like ordinary pocket change. The coins we've discussed today prove that miracles can be small, round, and made of copper and nickel, and that paying attention to details can be the difference between spending 5 cents and discovering $50 million. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the world of rare and valuable Jefferson Nickels, and remember, the next treasure could be waiting in your very next handful of change, so keep your eyes open and your knowledge sharp because fortune favors the prepared mind.